Well, hello there, Dominic Offer. Welcome to the Red Couch Talk.
Thank you. Hello, Angie. How are you?
How are you on this beautiful? We have a beautiful sunny day, actually. How are you? What's the weather like where you are?
The weather is mild, as it normally is in the UK, unfortunately. But it's a nice day. Yeah, it's been productive, and I'm happy. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Is it mild drizzle?
No rain, thankfully. But cloudy skies, everything's a little bit grey. So, yeah.
Well, nice. And tell me, Dom, I'm always interested in a fun fact about you.
Yeah.
What is your fun fact that people won't be able to know about you from the internet?
So, well, I used to run cocktail bars for many years before I got into international relocation. So, I used to do cocktails at high-end venues and used to do all the flaring, chucking bottles around and all that kind of thing, which I don't talk about too much at the moment
Oh,
anymore.
that's great. So if we ever meet in person, I'm gonna ask you to mix a cocktail for me. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great. Now, tell us more. You are a sustainability expert.
Yes.
I also saw that you developed a carbon calculator, which I find quite fascinating. And you have your own company called 17 Solutions and work with
Yes.
Harmony Relocation as well. Why
Yes.
did you get into this business? What's your big driver?
Well, I originally worked in international relocation. I've been in the actual industry for about 10 years, 10, 11 years now. And I started just as a consultant with one of the big companies, the international, the RMCs. And I worked myself from a consultant to a director throughout my career. And about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, um, it was during the pandemic and I was seeing the need and the impacts of like climate change and social disruption around the world. And I said, "Look, can I go away and do something?" And um, I'd been writing about it for a little while before that, but my boss was kind of like, "Look, Dom, this is the pandemic. You're already doing three people's jobs. We've furloughed everyone else. I think it's probably not the right time, but if you want to go do it in your own time, you can." So after 6 months working my own time, I created a sustainability strategy and a report, did carbon calculations, and they were like, okay, this has got teeth. And then the company I was with at the time, Bristol Global Mobility, um, they were like, okay, well, let's release it. So, working with a company in our industry helped me build the report, do the carbon calculations to a high standard, away from my amateurishness. And we released one of the industry's first full sustainability strategy and annual sustainability report globally.
Mm.
So from a small bespoke, RMC who were doing really forward-thinking things, we were kind of ahead of the pack. And then since then, my career has just been pretty much surrounded by sustainability in the global relocation industry. So, yeah, very lucky. But that's how I fell into it.
So for the non enlightened viewers,
Yeah,
RMC stands for Relocation Management Company or
yeah,
Center, and these are usually big companies that sort of one could say, they subcontract other companies to deliver certain services. If you think about in-house professionals, and now, I want to come a bit to the how are we actually going to get into more sustainable processes in global mobility. If you think about in-house professionals, what kind of changes would you recommend? Let's just say the top three changes to global mobility policies that everyone can implement right away to improve sustainability.
it's a great you said the first thing, policy.
Mhm.
So what everyone's doing at the moment, we have to recognize that global mobility or international relocation, however people want to call it, is often a small part of very big businesses.
Yeah.
And sustainability got catapulted to the top of the agenda. It's been around for 100 years. It's been in the public eye, in terms of a concept, since 1900, really. But then you have the UN definition in 1976, I think it was. My mind's going a bit, but this has been an issue for a while. Now, what's happened in the last 10 years, we've got a problem. 2016 was the Paris Agreement. And since then, it's become a part of business. And what we have to look at is, has sustainability been implemented into policy? And my argument across the board is pretty much no.
Mhm.
And it's not, the blame isn't with the global mobility teams or the HR teams or whoever's trying to cope with global mobility. It's the fact that the biggest part of sustainability is looking at the big issues. So, none of the sustainability team are properly training global mobility contacts on how to make changes to policy. So therefore, you don't really approach it because it's unknown, especially when you've got all the tax, immigration, and freight rate increases going on. So the best place is to look at your high volume locations and talk to relocation management companies, corporate housing providers, and not only ask them what they're doing, but what they want to do and
Mhm.
what are the issues in those locations. And then look at the policy that you have, um, and really factor in that when you look at global mobility, we often think, with sustainability environment, so solar panels and EVs, we've got to push that down the supply chain. That's not policy.
Mhm.
Policy is what you're doing with your staff. So only 14% of expats were women relocating in the last few years. So
Mhm.
we have to think about that. Part of sustainability is gender equality. And there is no way that 14% is in any way a form of equity. So we know that as a social issue within sustainable context, in global mobility, there is a solution there that any company can start working on. Um, and through that, then look at economic approach. So lump sum models, they might work for the company, but if they're not supported by tax equalization and things like that, which companies are moving away from, is they're not sustainable, not for the assignee. Um, and are they really getting the support that they need? So when we think again about social, mental health, relocation is a top three stressful things, and it doesn't even have to be internationally. It can be just down the road. Can be is one of the most stressful things you can do in life. Imagine going like, look, here's 10 grand, do it on your own, which sounds great to everyone. We don't have to pay out for freight rates. And, someone goes, right, let's burn all the stuff in the backyard. We've got 10 grand. Let's go to Monaco and, and have a good holiday or whatever. But it doesn't work. So realistically, it's about identifying policy change where you can say, right, in terms of social, are we moving not only the right people in terms of who we've calculated within the business, but have we changed our calculations to determine who can go based on a wide spectrum of employees? That's a
Mhm.
really important thing because most people assess on traditional models and it's archaic.
I love what you're saying, Dom. This is fantastic. And I didn't realize we were so aligned on this topic.
Yeah, yeah,
So, one of the things that I also keep telling in my lectures, because as you said, sustainability is usually mostly associated with environmental impact.
yeah,
And then very often the argument is, oh, your expat population, that's like 2% of our overall population.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not relevant. Whatever you're doing, it's not relevant. But
yeah,
I think, sometimes we also need to think, okay, but maybe we just need to start somewhere. Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's the counter argument to any change is, you're not having an impact. But then, if you want to have an impact, you have to start somewhere.
That's
Get
it.
some data. Yeah,
Yeah,
like get the data, for example, on the percentage of female assignees. And if
Yeah.
you want to increase the percentage of female assignees from 14% to maybe 25%, you
Yeah.
have to start with the pipeline, with the junior
Exactly.
people in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think is often underestimated, and it's been a discussion point forever, as far as I can think back, the
Mm.
late 90s, we already talked about this, is when we talk about international assignments and career planning, we also need to think about sustainability as in, let's make sure that the talent stays with us. Yeah,
Yes.
that we're not
Definitely.
losing the talent in the process. So
Yeah.
sustainability for me also means there's a long-term plan. And we're satisfying also all the psychological contracts that we have concluded with our expats
Exactly.
in the process, and they want to stay with us because what we're doing is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
so
that's exactly
completely
it.
agree with you. Fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's really important and it's underrated. We only, we're in a capitalist society where we think about quarterly results and we think about, how do we get the most for our money.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of social measures out there, but where there are, every single one of them tells us every single time that well-being is a huge contributing factor to people staying within a business,
yeah,
especially on an assignment.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and you mentioned lump sums. My favorite topic. Let's bash that a little bit. So you said, okay, it doesn't really help, to pay $10,000 or
yeah,
pounds, francs, or whatever currency you want to think about to an expat and assume that then they will be happy. Yeah,
yeah,
because what happens naturally is they have to pay. Usually they pay a good amount of tax on this,
mm.
unless they move to Dubai,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
they spend it on a new motorcycle or a new TV set.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then the spouse still doesn't have a job.
yeah. And that's exactly it. The Permits Foundation, if people haven't looked at it
Yeah.
and you're in immigration or global mobility or international relocation, Permits Foundation is awesome. I absolutely love it. So exactly going to that point is when you look at I'm going to circumnavigate before I get back to my other point because I'm going to seem like a broken record otherwise. But if you give someone a lump sum and they go, right, sweet, I'm going to sell everything I've got, I'm going to buy a new TV and I'm going to take it to Egypt, the amount of customs tax you're going to pay on that TV will be more than your flights because they don't and it might have changed now. I haven't done actual relocation, but I'm pretty sure it's still the same because there are countries in the world that don't like outside electronics
Uh-huh.
because the grid isn't used to whatever. So these are the things that if people get lump sums, they have no idea about it. And most people that take lump sums do not take them for a second time. So alongside that, to go back to the Permits Foundation, is when trailing spouses are asked about their job security going on an assignment with their other partner, their other half, when it came to it, 83% of women, trailing spouses who are women, were never asked about their career or their concern about jobs. 71% of men were.
Ah,
So as we let that sink in,
uh-huh.
the idea that just in those two figures, we see the inequality in the way that we treat people moving. Families, if you think only 14% of of women expats, that 71% is a small majority that are getting more attention than women trading with their husbands or their partner to be equal and thought equal in our thought process. So with that, if you factor in lump sums to that fact, then no one's getting asked. And you're giving someone goes, right, I've got 40, 50 grand that I can go spend. I'm going to get to the country. I don't know what to do with my household goods. I'm going to go look for a home. I've got no one to help me identify if I'm in a lease for the next 10 years or not. I don't know if my deposit, I'm ever going to get it back, but it's right because I've still got 40 grand.
Do you have any thoughts on why there is such a communication gap? Let me just explain why I'm saying this. So again, I've moved to Switzerland 16 years ago. Oh, no,
Yeah.
almost 17 years ago. And at the time, when I asked the question about spouse career support to my global mobility colleagues in my networks, very often the answer was we're not supporting at all, or we're paying a lump sum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's a shift now. Many policies of the Swiss big headquarter companies, they have a provision for expat spouse career support, no matter which gender.
Yeah,
But still, I hear, oh, hardly anyone ever asks for that kind of support.
yeah.
Do you have a suspicion on why that is?
I think that it depends on the industry. It depends on the GM team. It depends on the budget. So I think there's lots of different factors. There's some industries where, the tech industry, they're very lump sum heavy. Like they digest the information on a portal. They go this, that, and the other, and they're
Yeah,
smaller. They're younger people. But when it comes to people of the older generation, who aren't working in tech companies and stuff like that, you get given a massive document and go, here's your policy. And you read it and you go, right, okay, well, I can understand kind of what's going on,
yeah,
but then can I get a meeting? And people support them, but it's all around household goods, around destination services and stuff like that. And this is where the traditional model, we have to rethink it.
yeah,
And the role of mobility and international relocation is changing. Global mobility teams getting smaller. Every company is downsizing and they're trying to streamline budget, technology,
hmm
and it's all working against the well-being of that person.
hmm
That person that's making your company money. And I must seem like such a radical, like I'm sure people think he must be up a tree, like just holding an antenna and doing this. But it's this idea that most of sustainability, to give you an example, there's more UN sustainability development goals focused around people than there are the planet.
uh-huh,
That's how much of a problem we have, because the gap between poverty's never been lower, but the gap between wealth has never been higher. So the people who sit in this band that isn't ultra wealthy are going with whatever they can, and that is truly a representation of our mobility policies. The days of 3-year assignments with 40-foot containers and your children being paid for at the highest private school, and you've got all this kind of stuff that I see barely any of them nowadays. A lot of
hmm
it is permanent transfers, lump sums, and assignments that have gaps. Um,
And international recruiting as well.
yeah, international
Not
recruit.
even assignments, and that these are not even handled by global mobility teams, they're handled by recruiters and HR professionals.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and when you think about this, is how many companies during COVID went, right, well, we don't need global mobility. We can recruit from abroad, or we can do this, or we can do that. But a lot of companies are calling people back into the office,
hmm
but they're not reinstating what they had when they were in the office.
hmm
And if you're going into the office 3 days a week, the part of being in the office, when you think about mental health and well-being, is having your friends there. Imagine if you go into the office 2 days a week and there's almost no one there. Is that helping your mental health? It might help your concentration, but you're not getting the work experience. And it's the same, like it's these things that we start thinking about in terms of sustainability. And the reason that people shy away from it is because it's so broad. Like, if you think of sustainability as business efficiency and risk and opportunity, that is the only thing that sustainability is. Trying to make businesses more efficient and identifying risk and opportunities, mitigating risk and increasing opportunities. That is exactly what sustainability does. But what we do is we lump it as the idea of sustainability and go, right, we need a sustainability team to change absolutely everything. And we're not going to tell anyone else in the business exactly what sustainability is. So your sustainability team are always trying to fight to get data and information and educate, because someone thinks someone else is going to do it. But sustainability sits, every role is a sustainability role, because sustainability is everything. It's the dynamic of the workplace, how we reduce waste, reduce energy. If you flip off a light switch, at the end of the day, you've done a sustainable action. You've got a sustainable role. And that is what we need to integrate within into businesses.
I think it is exactly the same for diversity and inclusion,
Yeah, 100%.
which is, one area I always sort of liked, found interesting, but I never wanted to have that role because I already felt it was hard enough to be a global mobility manager.
Yeah.
Like, you always have this problem already, to justify yourself. You don't want to pick up another one that is so hard. Because as you say, it should be everybody's job.
Yeah,
Inclusion
yeah.
should be every manager's job. It should be every employee's job, not just a department with some actions.
No.
And I think, yeah, so I think, these initiatives also fall flat and are now easily cancelled
Yeah.
because there is an assumption that a team will handle it,
Yeah.
while it is a responsibility for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is exactly it. Someone else will solve my problem. And people justifiably, people are worried because they're like, is AI going to replace my job? Am I going to go home? My electrics are going to break, and I've got Instagram to distract me. Then I go home to Netflix, and I'm watching one screen all day to then watch another to go to sleep. And literally, our eyes are glued at the screen, and we forget everything that's around us. And therefore, that we disassociate with the people that we have sat next to us, or we don't have sat next to us because they don't go in on the day that you go in. And then we look at, our sofa is, a piece of furniture that's replaceable. And so when we go back to talk about, moving, when you look at this policy, is I talk to a lot of global mobility professionals and they say, should I ship my sofa? And I'm like, hell yeah. And to your point, your red couch sofa, which I was fascinated on, is imagine if you hadn't taken that around the world. That sofa has probably been repaired, it might have been refelted, whatever it is, it's been cleaned. So that had a carbon life. So the wood, the material, the water, the dye, everything that went into it has carbon. That's called embodied carbon. Now, the longer that you use that piece, that carbon goes down because it's still in circulation. So another doesn't have to be replaced, taking that small bit of carbon away from your sofa. So yes, every time you move it, it might increase the carbon emissions. But what it's done is it's led to this moment where you feel comfortable on that sofa enough to interview people around the world about different topics. So not only has that sofa lived out its environmental life because it stopped other trees being cut down, water being wasted, and dyes being created. So it's done its job environmentally, socially. It's bringing information to people around the world so they can learn.
It's a
It's
good
good,
sofa.
and economically,
Yeah.
you don't have to buy a new sofa.
Yeah.
So these are the things that, if you look around the room that people are in now, you can associate that with everything. But we've got into such a mindset that nothing is worth it, because everything can be thrown away. Because at IKEA, if I take this with me, it will cost more, so I can go get a $200 or pound sofa at IKEA, and that's not the way anything has ever worked ever.
Mhm.
The world literally operates on a circular process of when something dies, it goes back into the ground or it's eaten by something, and then it goes back into a system where it's used again. We are like pretty much the only creatures on earth that create, consume, discard, and it has nowhere to go. And that is the reason that we're in exactly this problem. So, you know, there's the significance of just one sofa, um,
Mm.
for us to think about.
There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah,
I want to go back to your statement that we're dissociating from people and that, we're like glued to our screens.
yeah,
Um, because I think sometimes some younger people also watch or listen to the Red Couch Talks.
mm,
I was recently interviewed by a high school student. It was so funny. Um, I just felt like sometimes, they really like to hear from our generation.
yeah, yeah,
And what I wanted to ask you was two things. So, first of all, if you think back to when you were a young person, like a teenager,
Yeah.
you probably had different ideas about what you wanted to do in with your life. Maybe you didn't think you would be ending up as a sustainability expert.
Yeah.
Well, so what would you advise a young person today? And also, if you think about this topic of the dissociation from people, what can we do to countermeasure that? What can we do to build meaningful relationships again?
Um, I think, when I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went through quite a lot of trauma when I was in my teens, basically, and I was completely lost to the world. And as I said, I was running bars, and it wasn't exactly positive for my mental health and that kind of thing. So I was disassociating in a whole new way. But I'd always loved the outdoors. I'd always gone hiking, camping, climbing, that kind of thing. Um, and someone once came up to me. It was one of my dad's friends. We were at dinner party, and he was like, "If you don't know what to do right now, don't try to create a career out of nothing that you have no interest in." Which is what everyone was doing. Like, I can do maths, but I hate it, and I was looking to go into a bank. And, and like everyone was like, don't do it. Like for the bank's sake, don't do it. And he turned around to me and he said, you never really have to decide what you want to do until you hit about 25. And he was like, you can always go back and train. You can always go back. Once you find what you want to do, cling to it and just make it your passion.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I saw him actually a couple of years ago, and I said that, and he was like, "My God, that was bad advice. I hope your dad didn't hear that." But I actually truly believe it. We are put into a cattle grate of a system in terms of schooling. You know, as soon as you can walk and talk, you're put into primary school, then you go into secondary school, then you go into college, then you go into university, and you know, all we see around us is what everyone else has. How are you ever meant to figure out what you want? And people go on gap years, and their gap years is based on what other people want to do. My friends are going here, and you'll see culture, but separate yourself. And I think the biggest thing is just be passionate about something. Separate yourself from whatever you see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and go, do I like reading? Should I study English literature, or should I go work in a library, or should I, understand ancient texts or do languages? Do I love walking? Should I work outdoors? Should I be a gamekeeper or a groundskeeper, or should I, go on create a travel blog? I don't care, but I think the biggest thing in like our social media and our screens are sapping the existence out of life. you know we're not going for walks, we're not discovering, and we're ignoring what makes us passionate. And not everyone can do a job in what makes them passionate, but as you may have guessed, I am very passionate about what I do, and I take enjoyment from it. I read sustainability when I'm not working. I look at things like your sofa, and it just gets my mind thinking, and I look at systems, and I enjoy talking about it, and it gives me a lot of life fulfillment, and I've done a lot of great things because of it. So I would say, even if you don't know what it is now, go out and seek, tirelessly seek what your passion is. And once you find it, never let it go. And you're allowed more than one, sweet Lord. But yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing also that, sometimes, because I also think young people put a lot of pressure on themselves of, getting it right. And that puts so much pressure on them that then, they don't really know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I pivoted at 40, basically, like I started the blog, and then from that blog, I started a company. I left my corporate career, and I love what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
love it. Like everything about my business, I love to do.
Yeah.
Um, maybe, okay, maybe not accounting,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
have somebody to do that for me.
Yeah. And that's it. Well, some people love Excel. Like I know people who literally live and breathe Excel. Sweet Lord, like I'm so happy you found your passion. And like that's great because you're an accountant, you're a problem solver. And that's the thing, you might love
Yeah,
puzzles. Go be an accountant. That's cool.
yeah,
It's not for me, but
yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so I think there's way too much pressure put on children. And I think education should be a tireless activity. You know, if you ever stop finding that you're enthusiastic about learning things, put your phone down, smash your TV, go on holiday, but don't go lie on a beach. Like history is all around us. I'm such a passionate advocate of that.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I've just been to India, and I love old
Oh
things.
wow.
So we go
Oh,
to like see castles and
oh
little trinkets and old stuff. I
yeah,
just love to look at this kind of things.
yeah. It's beautiful.
Even flea markets. I don't know. I I know I can't buy anything anymore because I already have enough stuff. But just looking at stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know. It. I have this kind of brain. I don't know. I enjoy that.
And exactly.
So tell me a bit more about what's coming up for you. And in terms of events, what are you planning to do next? Do you have any big launches, any big client events?
Yeah, so many that I'm not allowed to talk about, which is which is frustrating. But yeah, I we're doing something really cool with Harmony Relocation Network. So I own my own company and I work for Harmony Relocation Network,
Uh-huh.
which is a cooperative of 160 relocation companies,
Uh-huh.
movers, DSPs, that kind of thing, across 70 countries. And Paul, my boss, the CEO, the managing director of Harmony, is he's just so inspiring. And he came knocking at my door, and I was doing a pretty good job already that I'd only been in for like just less than 2 years. And he was like, "Do you want to come work here?" And I was like, "Yes." Like, forget what I'm doing. Yes, I always wanted to work for a cooperative. We are just about to launch a annual review where we've asked all of our members like 130 questions around sustainability. And I believe personally, and I think that it's true, we're taking the most advanced collaborative action on sustainability in the industry at the moment. We're trying to get everyone moving not in one direction, but in the direction that matters most in their country. We work with the University of Amsterdam to create a risk and
Uh-huh.
opportunity assessment
Uh-huh.
um, to help people, so they didn't have to do the data and the heavy lifting around the admin. We've done it all for them, so they can just focus on being the most sustainable company that they can. So that is currently underway. And then in terms of 17 Solutions, um, we're doing two things. We're actually building a tech platform, which we hope is going to change the way that we look at non-competitive data in the relocation industry.
Mhm.
We're trying to create a model where people don't have to work together, but if we can standardize and streamline non-competitive um, um, sustainability data, people can start working together without having to work together. So RMCs, relocation management companies, can understand what their people are doing in every single country. That's really exciting. And alongside that, we're just about to release a partnership with an amazing recruiter, a partnership with another company in our industry. Yeah, we're really, really excited about the future.
The project that you just mentioned with your company with 17 Solutions, that sounds kind of intriguing in terms of something we haven't mentioned, the sustainable supply chain.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that is something for another episode or future
Hmm.
episode. Also, uh, Dom, if you have any like a quiz or anything where people can sign up to retrieve the research, make
Hmm.
sure you send us the link so we can put it into the show notes here, because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of our students, for example, will be really interested
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
knowing that as
100%.
soon as it's ready.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to be launching in the next 2 weeks, and we've got articles coming out all the time. So, yeah, um, I will definitely share those with you.
Very good. And can my listeners contact you on LinkedIn if they have any
Yes.
questions or
Yeah.
follow-up questions.
Yeah, please. I love talking to people. So as you may have been able to tell from my non-stop talking, but yeah, if people reach out on LinkedIn, you might need help, you might just have an interest, you might have a question. I really, really am a completely open book, and I really, really encourage people to come and talk to me because I love this stuff. In any way that I can help or be part of your journey, I would be really open to. So please, yeah.
Dominic, it was once again very, very inspiring to talk to you. I'm so glad we connected about my sofa. And yeah, and I look forward to meeting you in person
Yes,
and for
yes.
that cocktail.
Absolutely. And
Now
thank
you got me onto something. I'm not going to forget that. I have a very good memory.
and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk and to be listened to. So yeah, and for your time. I've really
Very
enjoyed it.
good. Have a good day. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Bye bye.
Bye bye.